Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Signor, and we're talking James Bond. For the past 60 years, the rights to James Bond have been held by the Broccoli family. This started back with Albert Cubby Broccoli, who produced Dr. No, From Russia with Love, all the way until GoldenEye, where the rights passed on to his children, Barbara Broccoli, and her half-brother, Michael G. Wilson. So they have been holding the rights to this franchise since the beginning, and they have a level of rights that are not traditionally possible in today's day and age. They have complete creative control over how these films are made. They're not the Flemings. They're not the Fleming family own, the books and everything, but they own all film rights to this movie and all creative control of all Bond films. So these rights are impressive, and they are known for being sticklers to that and making sure they oversee every inch of the film, which some have said is a detriment to the series, and some have said is the success of the series. But this article with Variety that they did was very revealing. They reveal a lot about James Bond. But the pull quote that everyone's pulling out that I think was incredibly refreshing and honest to hear, especially coming from a woman, Barbara Broccoli. Bravo, because look, there's been all this news and controversy over blonde's going to be a black woman, and it was confusing because Lashana Lynch is playing a character in the new film, but she's just using the moniker of 007. She's not playing James Bond. And there's been this miscommunication with so many people online of, well, why can't Bond be a woman? Of course. And super agent can be anything, but why would you want a woman to play a male character? And Barbara says, let's just read her views, because the way she says it is perfect. It's exactly what I think, and hearing someone in charge of the franchise in this industry say so much and have the guts to say it and potentially get backlash, I think we should be applauding it. You think of him as being from Britain and the Commonwealth, but Britain is a very diverse place. He can be any color, but he is a male. I believe we should be creating new characters for women, strong female characters. I'm not particularly interested in taking a male character and having a woman play it. I think women are far more interesting than that. I mean, that's exactly the point. That's the point. And I think it's frustrating when fans or commentators, anybody is like, well, no, Bond's a man. His name's James Bond. It's a sexist character. That's what he's known for. Why do we need to then just make a female version to for political correct reasons in this day and age? Now, look, the article goes into great detail about how the character and the film has to move with the times and how they have done that. And I agree wholeheartedly. And they talk about how this film is born in the Me Too era of you can't just have James Bond be as aggressive as he was in the past. It's just not how today's world is. So Bond does have to adapt to the times. But still, they stick to the fact and they own it, the fact that Bond is a man. That doesn't mean you can't introduce fabulous new female characters into the franchise, but to just shoehorn a female into the male role just for numbers and success and just not have the creative wherewithal to make a strong female character and instead say, well, it can't work unless we make her James Bond. That to me is the biggest frustration in Hollywood right now. It's not that I'm not against women playing roles or I'm not PC. It's just forcing a man into a female role or a female into a male role just for ticket sales because the name is popular. I think that's the thing we need to get through. And I think Barbara says it beautifully. That's I don't see how that's respectful to women. We need to make stronger, more independent, fantastic characters. As she says, women are more interesting than just playing the man role that was developed for a man, and now we make a new character. So I applaud her for finding this out. There's some other interesting things she reveals in this interview that I wanted to sort of go through because they don't typically do interviews, and so it's interesting to talk about. So first, they sort of address Daniel Craig leaving. Now, he said numerous times that he would be leaving, but now her response to sort of him leaving for sure is, I'm in denial. I've accepted what Daniel has said, but I'm still in denial. It's too traumatic for me. You got to remember, back in the day, he made some comment, I think it's up here, that, he would rather slash his wrists than return for another outing. This was after Spectra. Spectra? I'll never say it right. Sorry. It says Spectra, but it's Spectre. There it is. Sorry. Someday, maybe. No, it's more fun when I say Spectre, isn't it? Anyway, he says he had a nice long break after saying he'd slash his wrists before going to another outing. He had some time to recuperate. And he says, Barbara doesn't take no for an answer. It's not in her wheelhouse. I had a nice long break, which I needed. And then she was just persistent and came to me with some ideas, which we started formulating. And I got excited again. That's how it works. So I think when someone's like, I'm never doing it, never going to be Iron Man again. Of course he's going to be Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Iron Man again. Some version, cartoon, voice, hologram. Come on. It's just got to be written in a smart way. And they need some time to move on and adapt and make a couple more Doolittles that are going to bomb. I still like Doolittle. Anyway, the media has been reporting, obviously, Idris Elba. Richard Madden's now new in the mix about who could replace them. I mean, Elba makes sense because Corey Fukuyama, who's directing this, did Beasts of No Nation, and he was in that. So I wonder if that was sort of he's trying to get in there, so sort of potentially get Idris next. I think Idris would make a cool Bond. But then they go on to sort of talk about what kind of character he is and how Daniel Craig was not seen as Bond. People had backlash just because he was blonde, and they say he wasn't, gorgeous enough. He wasn't traditionally handsome, which is just odd. But the blonde hair created the Greg not Bond websites. Everyone was just not into it, and even Craig sort of admitted he didn't think he was going to get the role. I thought I was just on a conveyor belt of actors who go through the door. I assumed they were just casting they're casting their nets very wide. I thought I'd go in and meet them and have a story to tell friends about that time I was considered for Bond. But when they suggested they were serious about me doing it, I was completely flattered but perplexed. And so after Die Another Day in 2002, they said that while it was financially successful, it made $432 million. They felt like it was getting serious. And as this article reminds, this is the one with the invisible car, giant lasers, and flying on the snow. It was a silly movie. We got too fantastical. We had to come back to Earth. And it was a different situation globally. The world has changed. We had 9/11. The stakes were higher, and we felt we needed a more realistic Bond. Enter Martin Campbell, who I think made two fantastic, GoldenEye and Casino Royale. Casino Royale, to me, is still the best Daniel Craig movie. What one do you think is the best Daniel Craig movie? It's usually Skyfall or Casino Royale. But I think Casino Royale is more stronger. But hit it down in the comments. They wanted to play a fresh, version of the super spy, and they had 8 candidates. They won't say who, but he came in and apparently screen tested, and he read scenes from Casino Royale, and then he also recreated a seduction scene that Connery performed in From Russia with Love. I'd love to see that tape. To be honest, it took me a little while to see it, says Martin Campbell, the director. Daniel's acting was terrific, but he wasn't a pretty boy. Barbara was adamantly in favor of him. Campbell won't say who else was considered, but apparently rumors are Sam Worthington, Gerard Butler were up for the part. Broccoli knew she made the right call. He brought fresh flesh and blood to the character. Bond in the novel is a silhouette. Daniel gave him more depth and an inner life. We were looking for a 21st century hero, and that's what he delivered. He bleeds, he cries, he's very contemporary. I agree, he's gritty. He does feel like he's still handsome. I'm sure a lot of men and ladies would agree. He's very handsome, but I agree, he feels more of a regular dude, and I do like that about him. He's still buff and everything else. Then they break down sort of when the films made money. It's interesting to sort of see the scale here of how it just increases as things go. With Skyfall being the most successful with 1.1 billion, Spectre got 881, Casino Royale 5. So they've gone up, and then Spectre went down. I don't know if they'll make 1.1 billion on this new one, but they'll do well. I think this one will do well. Looks cool. But compared to even the Brosnan years, Craig has definitely. I mean, it's also inflation. You can't remember every time. From License to Kill from 89 to 95, obviously huge adjustment, and then from Pierce Brosnan 2002 to 2006, again huge inflation. So it jumps with the time. So it'd be interesting to see how long they wait for the next incarnation now that he'll be done and the next wave of films. But so Barbara goes on to talk about how big of a part this was in her family and how serious they take the role. Apparently, they reread and dog ear the books between every film, so they can always be immersed in the material, so they can be true to it, which I immensely respect. They talk about in this article how they'll bring the books out on set to sort of to make sure they point out like, well, no, this is the feeling of James Bond, of Fleming. They're very important about it. People who have worked in the franchise say Broccoli they're complementary. They both have strong points. Barbara is very much concerned with the emotional side of the story as well as the relevance to how it is now. Michael's got a very good brain and a macabre dimension that allows us to keep the Ian Fleming flavor of things. They say Wilson's more cerebral, keenly interested in exploring the inner workings of the MI6, while Broccoli is more finely attuned to what's going on in the industry. So you got Wilson who's like, no, we got to focus on these spy parts, and Broccoli's no, like, look, here's what the movie industry is doing. So it sounds like it's they're helping each other. They'll also go toe-to-toe with studio heads, making it clear that she has outlasted all the previous regimes, and she'll be the one standing after film czars are disposed of another. Impressive. And there was another interesting part they sort of talk about here. They obviously are very positive to Michael and Barbara, but how just important this franchise is. No one wants to make the last Bond film. Don't screw it up. But they were talking about this, which I didn't realize. They haven't won every battle. In the early aughts, Broccoli's ambitions to have a James Bond spin-off focused on Jinx, the secret agent played by Halle Berry in Die Another Day, were foiled when MGM got cold feet about the film's $80 million budget. The decision left Broccoli incensed. One of her main goals as steward of 007 has been to shake off some of the chauvinism that characterized Bond's appearances in the novel and early film. Bond has matured with Craig in the lead. He's not just engaged in one-night stands, though he's had his fair share of those. He fell in love with Green's Vesper Lind, only to have his heart broken. Then which I liked about Casino Royale, was something different. Then he embarked on a mature relationship with Leah Sandusky's Dr. Madeline Swan in Spectre, who I'll be honest, I forgot about that one already. Those ties will be strained at the beginning of No Time to Die. Okay, I guess I got to refresh my brain on that when it returns to haunt the couple in unexpected ways. This obviously is going against Pussy Galore and Dr. Holly Goodhead. This is all in reference to now, obviously, the era of Time's Up, where issues of consent and workplace harassment have been fiercely debated since the last time Bond was on screen and his double entendres. The filmmakers were very careful to reflect on the current mood and moment in their portrayal of women. Not only does Swan return, but also Ana de Armas, who I really like as a CIA field agent, and Lashana Lynch as a 00 operative. Both are fully capable of holding their own in the action department. Bond's been evolving along with all the other men in the world. Some have just gotten there more quickly than others. So it's an interesting article. It goes on to explain, apparently, Fujinaga was up there with before Mendez came on, and then before Skyfall, and then couldn't do it. And now, so he's been in the running for a while, so he's been a fan. I forgot Danny Boyle was going to do this film originally, and then just creative differences set them apart. And then they talk about streaming services and how, while they turned down sort of the young Bond series that was going to be really CW stupid, they are admitting, like, look, we're not, while we want them primarily seen on the big screen, we have looked to in the future, and our fans are the ones that dictate how they want to consume their entertainment. I don't think we can rule anything out because the audience is what makes the decisions, not us. So overall, really good read. If you want to learn more about it, I'll put the link down below. Fascinating interview by the two, really, who have shepherded a really important franchise, getting some more insight behind that and this new film, which, look, I didn't like Spectre that much. It gets too into the history of it all. I like when they can be a little bit more standalone, but then have some broader connections to it. I want a standalone story because I honestly don't remember what happened in Spectre, and I just remember not enjoying it very much. I also really didn't like Quantum of Solace. Skyfall was good, but again, I hope they don't get too bogged down, but it sounds like they are. They say the film is going to tie a lot of loose ends with Daniel Craig up because this is his final film. So they say, but interesting interview that I do advise you check out. Are you excited for No Time to Die? Hit me up down below. Who do you want to play Bond? And are you? Is it refreshing to see Barb Broccoli have the guts to be like, no, we're not casting a woman as James Bond. That's not what we do. That would be offensive to women. But could be Idris Elba, could be anybody who's a man. What do you think? Is that too daring for you? Is she wrong? Is she right? Let's hear it all down in the comments below, or hit me up on social media at Andy Signor. Stay tuned for my best of the year are finally coming this week, tonight or this weekend, depending on when I get it, and lots more coming, including Nerd Wars back next Thursday. What is that date? With Chris Gore of Film Threat, other special guests. It's going to be a lot of fun. So tune us in on a Thursday, the 23rd of January for the debut of the new season of Nerd Wars. So much fun stuff. So hit that subscribe, smash that like button, engage down below, and thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day, everybody. Bye.